Welcome back to the chess world, ladies and gentlemen, and today is the Liga Mid Elo portion of the championships, and today is actually the semifinals. Now, the semifinals have happened like 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, didn't have the time to record the games. One of them reasons is Warbox translations are done. I decided to lock in and be done with them. They're finally done. A huge burden has been released from my hands. Second is that I simply had a little much to work on my hands. And no time. And now that I finally have found some sort of time, we're able to record something and upload it to YouTube. We have the Liga semifinals. We have Kulbasar, the Prodigy, Banana Guy, and Arctic playing the tournaments. We have Arctic versus Banana and Kulbasar versus the Prodigy. Whoever wins today goes to the finals and has the shot at becoming the Mid Elo Champion. And this was a huge twister. It was a huge twist, a lot of plot twists, a lot of blunders. Not a lot of them, I'm just over exaggerating, but you get the point. Let's see who will be crowning our finalists for the mid Elo portion of the Liga Championship. Make sure to join the Discord server or even sub, you can do that. Anyway, let's begin. Let's start with an appetizer, boys and girls. We have Kulbasar with the white pieces versus the Prodigy with the black pieces. Kulbasar apparently won the first game, so now he just has to win this to go to the finals. E4, E6, the French defense. I used to play the French defense a lot. I still play the French. Have it more as a backup opening in my Sicilian positions, but sometimes I do play it from time to time. It's a fun opening. It's a respectable opening, respectable choice. Don't listen to Stockfish saying it's the worst response against d4. The worst response against d4 is obviously f6 or f5. d4, d5, we have knight to c3, and the Marshall variation. The Marshall variations and Marshall gambits in chess are the most aggressive variations. Mostly because the man they're associated with, Marshall, Frank Marshall, who was like one of the most aggressive tacticians of the 19th century, and one of the greatest geniuses of aggressive chess of all time, if not the greatest. E takes d5, e takes d5, bishop b5 check, and bishop d7. In these lines, it's very common for black to give away a pawn or two to try to get some sort of initiative, some sort of attack going. Queen e2 check, and bishop e7. Knight takes d5, bishop c6, and bishop takes c6 check. Knight takes c6, and knight takes c7, and the pony takes back, and the pawn takes back. A lot of trades. So this is going to go to draw. Kulbasar wants to keep it safe and sound. He wants to not lose. He just wants to draw to go to the finals. That's how he wants to do it. Don't blame him. Queen a5 check. That's the strat of what to do if you're, winning a tournament. c3. That's what Bobby Fischer did. If he got like a healthy lead of 5 or 6 games, he would basically just draw all of the games and keep it safe. You play like the least dynamic openings that existed against or with e4. Queen takes c5 and bishop b3. You learn some chess history along the way. Queen f5, knight to f3, castles and long castles. Kulbasar does not want the draw, however. He wants to melt the Prodigy's face off. That's what he wants. Kulbasar is known to be castling longside in this position. In this case, the engine wants both castle options, which is rare. If you go long castle, you severely imbalance the position, and you just need to be careful with like a5, b5. They don't have a5 at the moment because you got this to try to trade the queens off, and you go here, and then there's like king b1. I don't know. Aggressive position, long castles, opposite side castling. It's gonna be pretty much a fist fight. Rook a to c8, knight d4, takes. I don't know why the engine really hates knight to d4. It's a pretty respectable move. I guess because they have knight to c6 and bishop e3. And now rook f to e8, pinning the bishop, and now rook d3. Fortunately, rook d3 does not work. The better move is a3. And if, they try to infiltrate the squares, you got like this, and you're fine. So there's not a lot of threats after a3. But rook d3, however, allows knight to b4, which is a nice shot spotted by the Prodigy here. Rook d4, and now black pretty much takes back their pawn. King to d2. Rook e d8 and queen d3. Trying to trade the queens off, try to go to this endgame where the knight is a little stuck. Rook takes d4, bishop takes d4, queen d5, h4. Simply saying, go ahead, the prodigy, take my pawn, and let me just go here, sacrificing my rook, because if you take this, you get destroyed on the king side. Did that happen? Absolutely not. We have b6. I don't know what b6 does. I guess you're trying to go a5. That's the only reasonable explanation you could give. Rook e1, queen to b3, trying to take the free pawn. Rook to b1. The better move is objectively just queen to c2, just trying to get the queen straighted off, and go into this knight versus bishop endgame, which probably with perfect play will be a draw. I mean, two pawns, three pawns, rooks, and bishop versus knight. Pretty much going to be equal here. The pawns are pretty much the same. Rook to b1, rook d8. Now the position is a little bit imbalanced. However, queen to c2 kind of makes me wonder why you went rook b1 and then queen to c2. I mean, you could have gone queen c2 in the first place, but fine. Queen to d5, rook e1. Again, giving up the g pawn. But if you take the g pawn, apparently there's this move. You gotta trade the queens. And somehow white is not losing this position despite having a split structure. And also down a pawn. Knight to b4. If you take this, you get destroyed. So you can't quite take that. Nice little move spotted by the prodigy. Queen to e4. And queen takes c4, rook takes c4, knight to c6, and king e3. We're probably going to head for a draw. And this game lasted a while. f6. Rook e6. The best move is g4. No one is spotting that. I mean, taking away space from your opponent is bit a little too advanced. Okay, it's a little bit above the pay grade, Stockfish. Rook e6, though, is far more natural. You're attacking the knight, so knight takes d4, c takes d4. Okay, isolated queen spawn, but still probably gonna end up being a draw. King f7, rook c6, rook d7, king d3. I mean, this is pretty much heading to a draw. H5, king to c4. Yeah, Kulbasar is going for the queen side. Rook e7 and d5, try and get that pawn down the middle. King e8, d6. That pawn is close to promoting, but there's still no threat. Rook d7. And now there's a threat. King d5. You're infiltrating. That's somehow winning out of nowhere. The better move is giving this check, trying to win this pawn. You can take this. I think, yeah, you can take this. However, the rook is infiltrating. The better move is to like go back here or something like that. If this, then fine, you can take here, and you have to make sure that this endgame is fine for black. And they have to go g5 and takes, and playing this imbalanced endgame. If you take this pawn, there's like, you know, taking all of this, and it's probably going to be a draw because both people promote queens. However, rook d7 is not the way to go because king d5, and somehow you're in a sort of zugzwang here. G5, and somehow you made things worse for yourself because of rook c8 check, and now you have to block. Rook c7, trying to get the pawn. King f8. If you go back to, you know, do this, then there's this, and simply you are just lost. King f8, king c6, a5, and out of nowhere, Kulbasar is gonna get a win. d7, b5. And d7 somehow draws the game. I don't know how. King e7 draws the game. It's still pretty much lost, but somehow gives black fighting chances, a little bit of fighting chances, but still pretty lost. The better move is obviously to take this and then go here, win these pawns, use the d pawn as a decoy, get all the other pawns, promote. That's the way. d7, b5, and again back to completely winning because of rook to c8, and basically king e7, takes, king takes b5. You can give away the d pawn, doesn't matter. What you can also do is simply just take these two and then take this, and that's it. You use your b pawn as a decoy. You use this as a decoy, outside pass pawn, not outside pass pawn, and black can try to get a queen here, but it's not gonna work. They're too slow because you got your pawn like that. By the time they even get remotely close to getting your pawns, you make the queen, and the queen simply laser beams the two pawns, and there's no way to get through. King takes b5, king takes d7, king takes a5, king c6. Again, the engine is exploding here. Don't mind it, it's still fine. This is still fine because the structure is just destroyed. And I mean, the rest of the game, again, the rest of the game is simply just red carpet for the pawn. You make the queen. Honestly, would love to see a rook here. I'd love to see this. Fortunately, this is a little bit of a more respectable tier of chess, I'd say. b8 equals queen, king d7, and the rest is history, folks. As Arctic promotes to another queen. Lame as fuck you do not promote a rook. Lame, honestly, Kulbasar, if you're watching this, bad. When your opponents do not resign, you under-promote to different pieces. But don't stalemate, because then you will look like an absolute dumbass. H8 equals queen, and then just checkmate at the end. And this basically makes Kulbasar qualify to the finals, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty happy to see my fellow countrymen dominating the tournaments. Now we just have to see with the main course and dessert of today's video, Arctic versus Banana Guy. Which of them are going to qualify to the finals? Alright, we have Arctic Pillar with the white pieces, aka the 2x champion, versus Banana Guy with the black pieces. Keep in mind, there's a 500 elo point difference between the players, with Banana Guy being the underdog, so theoretically, Arctic should have no problems destroying Banana Guy. E4, E5, knight f3, knight to c6. We have a Scots game. What I recommend, I don't play the Scots too much, but I really like this approach by white, gambiting the pawn. I mean, if you try to defend it, sure, you can also just keep counterattacking. There's these sweet lines where you can bait your opponent to taking free pawns, and then there's all this. I think it's a pretty good, it's a pretty fun line for those that are looking for an easy opening. I haven't played the Scots too much myself, but I've seen some good stuff being made out of nothing. Knight takes d4, and theoretically, Banana Guy enters the worst variation against the Scots. A move like c5 here, not very good, because white just goes back, has easy development, white's got a lead in development, and also will have a better pawn presence in the center, while black has a rogue c-pawn and a d-pawn that can move at the moment. So for that reason, we have queen to f6, trying to trade off. And Arctic plays the aggressive response, e5, try and get a lot of momentum against black's queen. Queen to g6, attacking a pawn, and knight to c3. For a lot of reasons, taking this pawn is not very good. It basically means immediate death, as white just gets a lot of development, and the king is simply just gonna be very weak. And, you will get destroyed. So for that reason, knight to e7 is playing, trying to catch up back in development, but now knight to b5. Honestly, when I saw this game for the first time, which was after it was played, honestly, I thought Arctic is just going to win here. Like in 6 or 7 moves, he should have an easy win here. Queen to c6, though, is not the way to block the check. The better way to block the check, actually, is surprisingly king to d8. Because of queen to c6, there is a very sneaky move here. Queen to d4. Queen to d4 is a very weird move to understand. If you take the queen trade, then I go here, I'm threatening a fork, you have to move over, and I just win a pawn. If you don't take the queen trade and you go king d8, then I will simply just take the pawn. So basically, queen d4 just wins a clean pawn, and also just destroys black's king safety. Unfortunately, Arctic does not spot this tactic and gives away all of the advantage, which is quite impressive. I mean, the engine is kind of rough on that, this advantage thing, but honestly, I mean, bishop d3 is a reasonable move, but I guess the engine just want to get a little bit aggressive and win material. And now Banana finds the only move in this position to keep the advantage, a6, kicking out the knight, and after that queen takes g2, the pawn is simply gonna fall. However, Arctic has huge development lead, and that's pretty much the only advantage that white has. It's a huge initiative. Initiative in chess is basically when you dictate what what you want your opponent to do. So queen to g4, bishop to e3, and to c6. c6 is a horrible move. The better move here is knight to c6, which is a very easy move to understand. The point is you're entangling the pieces. The bishop opens up. If you get taken, that's actually to your benefit. You trade the queens, and then you take like this. Both of your bishops are open. You got the bishop pair. White structure is destroyed, and Soon you will consolidate with black, and you will probably win this game very conveniently, or just be better. If you're in fact not taken, and you just go here, then I still play d6. You have to take me, and I get the lead in development. Your structure is terrible, and your king is very, very weak. And that's pretty much the problem with the way Arctic has handled the position. c6, though, permanently kills the light square bishop. It will not see the light of day for now. It will probably take like 3 or 4 moves to get it out, and yeah, it's pretty bad. And now the engine is saying +1 because of the very ridiculous h3 move. h3 is just basically get some time against black's queen. That's literally the only point. And also make a small pawn improvement. Queen to h5, knight to e2. The better move is rook to g1, sacrificing the pawn, because if you take the pawn, then there's long castles, and suddenly all of the pieces for white are participating into the game. And sometimes material is less important than king safety, because let me tell you right now, black has 2 pieces out, and white's got all of them. And trust me, after b5, the plans are simple. You go with your bishop here, and you simply just put too much pressure against black's poorly developed position and destroyed bishop. So for that reason, Arctic does not go for that and goes knight to e2, which has an idea. The idea is to reroute the knight to the king side, which is a reasonable idea. However, the ensign wants to vomit. But we don't care about the ensign's feelings. The knight moves, and now the only move to keep the advantage is f4, defending the pawn chain. And now the very ridiculous move by the ensign, f5. If you take en passant, then I give you this check, and you have to block like... If you block like this, first of all, there's like this. So you have to block like this. If I take you with check, then there's this, and somehow my queen is trapped. That's bonkers. And yeah, you can't, go back anyway. You trapped your queen, which is crazy that this is actually a possible thing. So yeah, basically this is a way fancier way to take the pawn. If you don't take the pawn, and let's say you retreat your bishop, then I infiltrate your weak squares, and you have to go backwards, and I'll use that time to get your bishop there, open up my position, and things will be really, really bad. So bishop to e7 and f5. f5 is unfortunately not the way to go. What you want to do in this position is win time against the queen, defend your pieces. If your pawn gets taken, again, you long castle all your pieces into the game, and by the time the black even remotely gets to castle, you have time to move your king away. And let's say like d6, you try and break open, you just take the pawn, that's free. But if you try to play some like rook d8 to prepare that, then by the time you do that, white's infiltrating the position, and it's pretty bad. So f5. f5 seriously destabilizes the structure, and basically says that the white king is weak as fuck, so come and get me. Knight to f8, the better move again is this, which probably is unfindable. If you take en passant, then there is like this, activating all the pieces. The only move is to take the knight, and then this, and it's very complicated. Honestly, it's very complicated. Knight to f8 is far more natural and human. f6, though, certainly not the move. Now, the better move is to go king to d2. King to d2's only idea is to basically move to the queen side, defending the pony, eventually going knight f4, and getting all the pieces to the king side and harassing the king. f6, though, again, for the final time, destabilizes the structure beyond belief. The king is severely weak, and after takes, there is the incredible move here, knight e6, which is the only move to keep the advantage. Once the queen goes back, then you give a check. If you get blocked, that's fine. You take the pawn. And basically, you've eliminated white's counterplay by a lot. And white's actually losing. The best move is to castle kingside, which is beyond anyone's understanding in this video, mine too as well. Bishop d8, though, is the move chosen. Now, the problem is, what's the difference between bishop d8 now and then knight to e6? Well, that's because white can play the move queen to d6, which simply takes away space. And if you try to go here, simply just, moving and attacking the pawn, then somehow, some way, not like that. White just got counterplay. They can sacrifice a knight, and, they don't quite sacrifice it. I'm just stupid. By the time you get yourself to entangle, white again, one more time, has gotten all the pieces into the game, and it's looking pretty good. There's also this counter shot. If you take, then I take the bishop with check, and then you go here, and then probably you're mated. Honestly, you might be just made it. You're lucky you're not made it here, but honestly, you lose. Probably gonna lose a lot of pieces for the queen, and this is really complicated. Uh, Bishop f3 though is the move chosen. I really hope to God this was a mouse slip. Uh, You know how we explored all those beautiful ideas with like h3 and king d2? No, we just hang a bishop in one move because that's tradition, really. Why sit here and analyze the very complex complications that can arrive in these positions when you could just hang a piece? You know, it's pretty natural. Now Arctic is basically getting destroyed the entire game because you're down a piece, and now you're gonna be down even more stuff and even more stuff and. Uh, it's a very uneventful end, and Arctic simply just gets he Banana Guy just converts the game. Basically, it just converts it. Arctic did not resign, which is very sportsman's behavior, especially in these positions. But you never know; they can stalemate. So, what I tell people if they don't resign in a position like this, I like how he didn't even take this. It was hilarious. What I tell people to do to their opponent if they do not resign, and again, many one, is basically just BM the fuck out of your opponent. That's literally the strat. You just do this. You make rooks, you make knights, and you checkmate them. You make them regret ever downloading the chess app. And then sacrifice the rook, takes opposition, and checkmates on the 59th move with rook a1 checkmate. And Arctic got destroyed, unfortunately. Hang a piece. It was going pretty well until that piece blunder. And Banana Guy strikes first and gets a 1-0 lead. Alright, so this is game number 2 of the semifinals against, well, not against, I mean, Mid Elo Champ. I can't speak English, I don't know why I even drank coffee, so I should have theoretically the energy to speak. We have Arctic, again, versus Banana. Arctic has the black pieces, Banana Guy has the white pieces. Arctic has to clutch a win so we can go to the tiebreaks, otherwise he will be simply be kicked out of the tournament, and we'll probably lose the title. d4, knight to f6. Knight f6 are probably one of the best weapons against d4. It can lead to stuff like the Grunfeld or the King's Indian, the Nimzo or the Bogo Indian. Also the Benoni, never forget about that. I started with the Grunfeld, obviously. It was very, very thematic, very complicated, very dynamic. I still play to this day. But I've recently added the Nimzo Indian into my repertoire. Very flexible, very not, dense in theory-wise. It's not too complicated. It's basically the whole idea is to fight on the e4 square, play b6, d5, c5 in some positions. Very nice opening. I've started playing against people, and it's actually going really well. Knight to c3 is a move. Now, you have two choices here. You can either go to King's Indian defense, or you can go d5, expect a London, and then play like the counter shot, like this c5. If they take you, there's like a gambit you can play here. And actually, black is doing very well. Well, very well is an overstatement. But unfortunately, we don't have that wave c5, the Benoni. Now the Benoni is very old opening. It was very popular back in the 60s and 70s, probably even the 80s, but not for a while. Thanks to modern theory and computers, it has been known as refuted. There's a refutation line and stuff like that. But honestly, I like to see these old openings, like these dense theory-wise openings from time to time. They're pretty nice to be cited in tournaments because, honestly, in my opinion, in scholastic tournaments at my school, they're not really common. I mean, I played a Trumpowski attack, and the guy was looking at me like I played the Bon Cloud. So, yeah, that explains pretty much the level of the opening understanding of my country in chess. Anyway, we have d5, which is the line you have to play. Now, against knight to c3, Benoni is not that bad. E6 is one of the moves. You try to undermine the center. E4 takes, bishop e7. We have a huge imbalance here. We have a huge imbalance here. Eventually, playing this move right now is not that great because you help black reroute the bishop. Because that's literally black's idea right now, to reroute the bishop. Go bishop f6, probably g6 as well. You can go d6 here to just stop the central advance. A lot of ideas. And knight to f3, castles, bishop d3. Very normal stuff so far. Bishop to f6 and castles. There is bishop to f6. Now you can play the move d6 here, go for a6, b5, stuff like that. But queen to b6 is also a fine move. Now we have c3. Again, for a lot of reasons, you cannot take this. Let's say you don't play that, play something like h3. If you take this, you just get the pin and you just lose. You should be very careful of quote-unquote free pawns in a position because they might be hiding something not great for you. c3 though, d6. There's the move that we've been waiting. Also, I want you to keep an eye on the b8 knight. That knight will never move. I don't want this to be a spoiler of the result of the game, but this knight will just never move. You will see. Rook to u1, bishop to g4. This is a very fun idea. Try to trade off. h3, bishop h5. You could take the knight here, but then you have to consider the knight, being stuck here, because there's this. So be a little careful with trading bishops for knights for no reason. I guess there is a reason here, but bishop to h5 is not a good move because there's a tactic here. The tactic is bishop takes h7. If you take, then there's this discovery check. If you take, I take, you get destroyed. And I pretty much have to take. Then your queen infiltrates. Then I take your bishop, and you win my pawn, sure. But at the end of the day, someone's got more pieces against someone's king, and it ain't black's pieces. It's white's pieces. Simply infiltrating the king side, it's not very good at all. Bishop to e3, though, that technique is not spotted, and now, in fact, the pawn is hanging. However, it's actually not the greatest move, because after rook b1, queen takes c3, rook takes b7, we have weak a pawns, and a pass pawn protected, c5 pawn for black. However, the position is still not close to being winning at all for either side. It's super complex here. Bishop takes f3. And you have to take with a pawn, because if you don't do that, you lose the rook or the bishop. So g takes f3, rook d8, and bishop to f4. Again, like I said, this knight is very problematic. As you can see, this knight hasn't gotten a chance to move at all. So the only move that Arctic could find here, and I even saw his time usage right after the game, I could obviously tell he was not doing very well. Bishop d5. Bishop d5 is not that great. However, banana guy takes, which is actually not the greatest response. However, honestly, if you give me this, I'd say that white is better here, just because of those split pawns. However, the engine is arguing that, with lower depth, it's going to argue that double pawns and maybe the weak d pawn, but if you give it some time to think, it's probably going to say something like plus 1.1, probably, because of how, as you can see, plus 1.2 or later. Yeah. So, the better move here is c4. C4 is simply just going to attack the bishop. The bishop will move, and then you will be actually able to bring the knight to the game, which is crazy. I told you, this knight will just not move for a while. Bishop to e5, takes, rook to e3. Giving up all the advantage back to black for some reason. Now, the best move was this, to try and get, let's say something like this, to try to get this anchor right here. Not right away, not the anchor. I'm bad. Wow, didn't see that. Trying to get to win this pawn. This is pretty much the idea. The anchor is going to come later once the knight moves, because this pawn will be actually a liability for black. Right now, it's kind of a liability for white. Rook to e3, however, trying to double up. And now there is the only move here, queen to d4, very nicely spotted, trying to win this pawn. Queen to b3, defending the pawn. You can take it, but if you take it, then there is this, and now the position is not clean at all. Then you have to go here, then go to this queen trade, and you have to go here. I mean, this position is crazy again. The amount of possible positions we could potentially have in these mid elo tournaments, even the high elo ones, even the low elo ones, sometimes there's huge, very small chances, but they can happen. These little brilliancies, they're very rare, but the positions we can have is kind of amazing. Knight to d7, though. Finally, the knight gets to move on the 20th move of the game, which is a huge problem. Let's be real. But the knight finally joins in on the fun. However, it is very late because after rook d4, queen a1 check, king to g2, you have to play the move knight to f6. The knight has to move one more time. If you take the free pawn, you take the rook. That's obviously, and why is that thing there? Go away, thank you. And you have to find this move. If you take this, then there's like a mate in two. Unfortunately, though, Arctic plays the move rook a to b8 and blunders the game. He blunders the game because the amazing rook takes d7. You take the queen, you get mated. You take the rook, you get mated. Banana Guy spends some time to think in his position and plays f4. I don't know what it does. Maybe. I don't know what it does. And now Arctic has one chance to rectify his mistake and play like knight here or rook takes, queen takes, and enter this position once again. Unfortunately, though, Arctic makes a second mistake. There is this famous saying in Greek, in ancient Greek, to make the same mistake twice. The man that made the same mistake twice is not wise at all. I'm not trying to belittle on Arctic's intelligence. No shot. I'm not doing that. Arctic is a very good guy. I can't pronounce his name because for some reason I can't say the word Arctic. I say Arctic for some reason. I don't know why. It's kind of insane. But we have e takes a4. Just grabs the pawn. And now the move rook takes d7 wins again for the same reason. If you take, you get mated. If you take, you get mated, right? Banana Guy, though, plays the move rook takes b8. And the reason I'm laughing is because his calculations were correct. If you take my rook, then you're probably gonna get mated in a very, very funny way. Unfortunately, though, black can just take the rook like this. Or give a check first, force the king out, and then take the rook, which is the engine response. And somehow black's got a slight advantage in this position, which honestly looks like someone just vomited on the chessboard and the thing just moved the pieces around. Let's hope you're not eating. Wow, that's a disgusting thing. A disgusting thought. Unfortunately, though, ladies and gentlemen, Arctic simply just takes the rook with the rook. You're gonna say, but you just said that taking the rook is fine. Yeah, but you need to take with the appropriate piece. And after the rook takes, there is the incredible queen takes b8. And in this position, Arctic resigned. You take the queen, you get mated. You have to go back, and then I'll go here. And f5, and you can take this probably. Yeah, you could probably take that. I mean, you can give me a million checks, but at the end of the day, guess who has the winning of another piece? White. So yeah, it's also mate. So in this position, Arctic resigned, and with that, his forfeiture of the title to either Kulbasar or Banana Guy. Now, for which one of them do I root for? Kulbasar had an amazing performance. Honestly, I watched some of his games live. He had an amazing performance. He's also a fellow countryman. I have to support him for this battle. Low Elo, fellow countryman won it. Mid Elo, hopefully a countryman will win it. And in the high Elo, probably won't be me, but some other fellow countryman will win it. Yeah, honestly, it's pretty hard to which one of these two I will root for. Banana Guy deserves it as well because of how insane performance he has been in, despite not playing for literal weeks or months, or even a year, honestly. Honestly, it's just, I've said honestly so many times, Jesus. Yeah. Well, I guess we're just going to see to the finals when they ever come out. So, yeah, it's it's dependent on the committee. It's not dependent on me, I swear. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time, and take care. See ya.